Try not to mind the sun in this video. I don't have anywhere good to record inside. I don't like just recording in my room. I don't have a proper source of light, and this source of light likes to be inconvenient, and I only have a small window that I can really properly record. So, don't mind it. Don't mind its presence. We're gonna do this with a theory that's finally not Ruby related, but instead deals with Christmas. I don't know why I'm doing this. It started as a joke because Arnie is in both movies. He's Howard in Jingle All the Way, and he's Mr. Freeze in Batman and Robin. So to start, I'm going to get my opinions on these movies out of the way. Batman and Robin, of course, is awful. Jingle All the Way is also bad, but it's bad in the so bad it's good way, because it's stupid, but it's funny stupid. Nothing in that movie should happen the way that it does, and that's why it's great. And also, just conceptually, Arnold starring in a Christmas movie is hilarious in and of itself. But as for the actual theory of Howard becomes Mr. Freeze. So, Howard has the difficult family life. He has such a difficult time trying to balance working and being there for his family. And that ends up being like the main issue of the whole film, is that he's not there enough for his wife, and more importantly, he's not there enough for his kid, Jamie. I cannot remember the wife's name for the life of me. But Jamie, I remember the name. It's bad that I don't remember the name, because I just watched this movie the other day. So, the issue is the family life. It just so happens that Mr. Freeze has a family theme as well. His whole goal is trying to find a cure for his wife, Nora. Okay. So, thinking, after the events of Jingle All the Way, the next Christmas, or maybe a couple more Christmases came around, similar events played out. That Howard was not around properly. He wasn't able to properly be there for them. And so eventually his wife had enough of it. She and Jamie leave for a bit to give him time to move out. And he moves to Gotham City. And he's so distraught by this situation, he takes on a whole new identity, new name, new career. Everything is new. So, of course, now he's no longer Howard Langston, he's Victor Freeze. And he meets his wife, they get together, and he is the complete opposite of what he was as Howard. So now, this is so stupid. Now, he's actually devoted to her instead of his work. She falls ill. We get that origin story. She fell ill in his time trying to find a cure for her. He has his accident, and it gives him the idea to cryogenically freeze her, and he himself becomes Mr. Freeze. And then the events of Batman and Robin play out. There's another reason that this theory came about beyond just the Arnie thing, though. Beyond just, oh, Arnold plays both characters. Obviously, they must be the same character. No. So there's the family thing, but also, in that movie, Freeze tries to teach his underlings to sing Snow Miser's song. He's sitting there doing little conductor motion, trying to get them to sing, I'm Mr. White Christmas, I'm Mr. Snow. So, obviously he has a taste for Christmas-themed things. I mean, it makes sense for him because, ice, but also, Christmas is obviously an important thing with Howard's story. And as far as my theory goes, a few more Christmases like in Jingle All the Way, but maybe a little less successful. It's important to this character. I'm telling you, this theory is stupid, but it makes sense. I guess there's also the fact of, or I guess the question rather, of how can they be in the same universe? One of them's a superhero universe, and the other one kind of takes place in reality. No, it does not. Jingle All the Way does not take place in a realistic scenario. Ignore the fact that the characters don't act correctly. Ignore that for a second. Here, we ignore that. Later in the movie, during the parade, Howard takes on the mantle of Turbo Man, and he wears the Turbo Man fit, which isn't just a costume. It has the gadgets and gizmos, which for the most part act kind of like Batman gadgets and gizmos. Those, the discs, the boomerang. But then you have to consider Turbo Man is an Iron Man parody. The color scheme and the suit that flies. That's why it's Turbo Man. He uses a turbo jetpack, which is in the costume that he wears on the float. So this is just technology anyone can get, apparently. And it exists in that universe. So there's the precedent for superhero technology, like in those Batman films. And if we do consider that it is the same universe, that also means that aliens exist. Because Superman exists in those Batman movies. He doesn't show up, but they mention Metropolis and Superman in those movies. So maybe there's precedent for Booster to exist and not just Turbo Man. But anyway. So there's the precedent for Batman's gadgets. And of course, Howard, having spent time as Turbo Man, is what gives him the idea of the Mr. Freeze technology and weapons whenever he takes on the villain identity. Now, here's another aspect to it, another layer. Jamie loves superheroes. He not only loves Turbo Man, but he's a fan of Marvel. He has a Hulk mask on his wall, and he reads a Fantastic Four comic book. But there's no DC memorabilia in there. That's all Marvel. There's no DC memorabilia in there. That's a bit odd. DC would have been just as... DC and Marvel, they've always been basically just as big as each other forever. So why is there no DC memorabilia? And even in the parade. In the parade, there's no DC stuff either. There's none in the stores. The parade is the more important thing, though, because you see all these different characters. There's Gumby, there's Bert and Ernie, there's Sonic, there's Hello Kitty, but there's no DC characters. There's even the Tick. How is the Tick there? But you have no DC characters. The Tick, of all things, but no DC. Unless, of course, it exists in a DC universe. In which case, that merch just wouldn't be there, because those are real people. Now, of course, in the current DCEU, we see in the Shazam movie, they do have merch. But it could just be that in that universe, the Burton-Macher verse, as I call it, the Tim Burton and Joel Schumacher movies, the superheroes that actually exist just don't have merch. Maybe they just don't. Or maybe it's not popular enough to have superhero merch in the 90s in that universe. of real superheroes that exist. But but if it takes place in our world, aside from the jetpack, why is there no DC stuff? Everyone else is there, including the Tick. But DC isn't there. Probably because it exists in a DC movie. And Howard used his time as Turbo Man to become Mr. Freeze. However, there is one DC nod. There is one DC nod. Because it does show that these characters exist in some capacities, specifically one who's pretty important. When Howard is going to the warehouse with the con Santa and con Elf, the code to get in is Jingle Bells Batman Smells. That's a pretty important character for this theory, now isn't it? How is it that Batman exists in some capacity, but there's no merchandise especially owned by the kid who loves the comic books and superheroes, but no DC memorabilia? I don't understand. I, for one, do not understand. I don't. Unless, of course, the Batman in question is just a person that exists in that universe. By the time Howard meets him, he's played by Clooney, but, he's had two other faces by that point. All I'm saying is it makes sense. And I know it's a stupid theory and that nobody else in the world would have thought to think of it or cared enough to do it. But here we are, with me doing it. Because, yeah. I need to make a new Ruby theory. I can't let this be my latest theory for too long. I'm out.